President Muhammadu Buhari signs revised 2020 budget after coronavirus pandemic slashed government's revenue. And the Central Bank of Nigeria and Bankers Committee take over iconic National Theatre in Lagos, just as OPEC and allies set to meet Wednesday over demand in global oil markets. This is Business Express and we're reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Amina Nujaim. Thank you for joining us today. President Muhammadu Buhari Friday signed Nigeria's revised 2020 Appropriation Act of 10.81 trillion naira into law. At the brief but significant event, the president assured that ministries, departments and agencies will receive not less than 50% of their amended capital budget before the end of this month.
The 2020 budget, which I have just signed into law today, underscores our administration's firm commitment to effectively contain the spread of COVID-19 and protect the lives and livelihood of our people. With these budget amendments, as well as our recently launched 2.3 trillion naira stimulus program, we are well positioned to safeguard the economy. All ministers are to ensure that their ministries, departments, and agencies intensify capital project delivery efforts and fully cooperate with the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning to achieve the laudable objectives of the budget.
The federal government has projected a budget deficit of 5.16 trillion naira in 2021 due to the gap between revenue and expenditure, but will not be taking credit with severe conditions on the economy. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed at the presentation of the 2020 and 2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework (MTEF) said the challenges brought upon the global economy by the coronavirus pandemic will see Nigeria record lower GDP figures the last 2 quarters of 2020.
Nigeria, like most economies, a lot of other economies, is exposed to spikes in global capital market volatility. And this has put pressure on our foreign exchange as foreign portfolio investors have exited the Nigerian market. Unless we achieve a strong growth in the 3rd quarter of 2020, the strong economic performance, the Nigerian economy is likely to lapse into a second recession within a period of 4 years, with significant adverse consequences on the economy. So in response to the developments affecting the supply of foreign exchange to the economy, the Central Bank of Nigeria has adjusted the official exchange rate from $305 naira to a US dollar up to 360 naira to $1 US. The disruptions in the global trade and logistics would normally, and logistics has also negatively affected customs duty collections in 2020.
Ahmed disclosed that the MTEF as the key framework for the 2021 budget has a target to maintain the 3% deficit to GDP ratio. Now, how will the medium-term expenditure framework MTEF and fiscal strategy paper affect you and I? The focus today is on making the MTEF work amid coronavirus concerns. I'm being joined by a professor of economics, Kenny Fair, and together we will try as much as possible to trash out the issues at hand. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, let's look at the main issue. What's with impending recession in sight? Can this be avoided at this point?
With the best wish in the world, I don't think we can avoid recession. But I have to tell you that the energy, the cooperation, the teamwork, the dynamism of the finance minister and the central bank and all the others will minimize the depth of a recession when it does come. And it's not going to be as steep as it would have been, and the recovery will be almost instantaneous from the plans that have been released.
Why do you say the recovery will be almost instantaneous?
Well, the thing is that, you only have to wait for the second quarter result before you see the impact of the inflation and the impact of the massive loss in aggregate output and also the depression of aggregate demand. We can see that. You go to the market, you can see massive rise in the prices of goods. You can see all that. But the statistics has to reflect it, which is going to come in the next few days. So that's it. And in the third term, the third quarter statistics will also give us the highest we would have before the upturn comes.
Now, talking about data and statistics, there has been record of underperformance of the nation's revenue in the first half of 2020. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, how crucial is revenue generation to a nation like Nigeria at a time like this?
No, very, very crucial because of our high level of indebtedness. So we have to cover our back. We have to make sure we are maintaining the debt service. And if you don't, there are repercussions. And of course, we've just had a minimum wage rise, which also bloated the budget. So we have to, the government, if you look at the expenditure, 100% disbursement on salaries. Every other person began to take a hit. But it shows you the size of the challenge facing the government. So we do need the revenue. And there are plans to contain the downward pressure on the revenue.
Now, talking about revenue, something comes to mind: internally generated revenue. Should the system keep taxing the economy or create opportunities for more sources of revenue? Which should come first? I
think it's the other way around. If you look at the 2020 finance bill, it began by exempting all businesses of less than 25 million naira threshold from VAT and from tax. That is huge, and it came in good time before the corona came in. So from that perspective, the government has actually been leaning backwards to support the MSMEs. So it wouldn't be that case. And except the VAT that was increased by 50% from 5 to 7.5%. But it's still the lowest VAT in the region. The average is about 15 to 18%. And tax to GDP, we're not a very high tax constituency. Part of the attraction of inward investors is because we're a low tax constituency.
So that's
an
advantage in some way.
Yeah, because we have binding infrastructure constraints, we had to run a low tax economy until we're able to overcome those infrastructure deficits. So that is the thing. So revenue to GDP is 6 to 7, 8%. Others are 18%. Even ECOWAS wants 20% as part of macroeconomic convergence criteria.
Okay, now you've pointed out some government strategies you think that should be considered in dealing with the current situation the Nigerian economy is facing right now. What pattern should we be looking at in the next, say, 4 years?
First of all, I must commend the government for the palliatives in the humanitarian corridor areas and all the poorest of the poor. And also commend the minister and her team on the fiscal stimulus. And in fact, the height of it was the allocation of 2.3 1.3 trillion on the economic sustainability plan. And then, of course, the monetary authorities led by the CBN on 3.5 trillion on the table. So there's massive and aggressive response. That's why they are beating down the depth of the recession that we could expect to happen. So having said that, there are still other things. Because if you watch it, when the minister finished speaking, presenting, she was very frank, you know, and open and transparent, and said to the people, ask questions, bring your ideas. And there was an online poll that showed people's responses to big questions. And one of the questions is, where do you think we should get more money? Everybody was fingering NNPC, oil and gas.
That brings me to my next question. How relevant is oil to the Nigerian economy?
You see,
the revenue that comes from it.
Yeah, you see, the devil you know is better than the angel you don't know. Today, that is what we have. But though we have far more opportunities in the area of gas and then also in solid mineral and massive attack on our agriculture, we really need to do more with agriculture. But having said that, you can't look away from oil. However, you can't look away from oil. And this is because there is structural rigidity in the industrial structure of oil. If you go to Texas, it's just one state in America, and they have more than 200 refineries and the petrochemicals. Obviously, they're not serving America, they're serving the whole world. I still can't understand why private sector could not establish itself in the Niger Delta region to refine the oils, to do the private sector money. And licenses have been issued, but that's where the dynamics, we should expect the dynamics. Because if we are refining all our crude and producing phosphates and all that from our gas, you know, we would be exporting. Those prices are not affected in that way. So we will absorb the shock.
Okay, talking about some of the challenges the Nigerian economy is facing, the coronavirus has brought about the existence of new job opportunities.
Correct.
Literally taking some out of existence. Now, is this the time? Are the new jobs finally here? And how will these new jobs fill in the gaps within the Nigerian system?
What the coronavirus has done is to heighten the importance of the digital economy. And in fact, digital economy, not just in ICT sector and communication sector, but across all sectors. And it has a lot of impact to the three types of workers we expect in Nigeria that will drive Nigeria's future. The agripreneur, there's heavy involvement of digital technology now in agriculture. Then the ICT worker, which you've seen, massive rise. They're the only one that showed a huge rise in the GDP figures, that showed almost 50%. And then the bioeconomy worker. Now, these are the three workers that will define the future of our economy. And digital technology is behind these. And it's pushing that agenda. And we are capturing this in the Agenda 2050. And
so you see Nigeria embracing the ICT trend?
In a special way. It is.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Ken Ife, for joining us on the program, and thanks for your insight today.
Thank you.
Now, Business Express will take a short break, and we will be right back.
Let me assure Nigerians that all COVID-19 intervention funds are safe in the Treasury single account, and that government is still open to donations in this regard. Government has opened special accounts with 5 commercial banks which are directly linked to the Treasury single account. Donated funds are safe in the Central Bank of Nigeria. For verifiable information about the funds and other financial obligations of the federal government, please contact us directly at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning. The account details for the donations are as follows.
Insulating Nigeria's agricultural sector from coronavirus pandemic is not the only security issue confronting farmers, as the activities of bandits in the northwest and north-central parts of the country is another major source of concern. Chairman, House Committee on Agriculture has described the activities of bandits as capable of destabilizing the nation's agricultural development. Musa Baba Aliyu reports that farmer groups have expressed confidence with the ongoing military operations aimed at curbing the menace.
In the northwest and the north-central Nigeria are ranked the major producers of grains in the country. For instance, farmers in the regions have successfully pushed the country's maize production from 8 million tons in 2015 to more than 18 million tons in 2019. The insecurity in the northwest and central, occasioned by banditry, farmers say is constituting a threat to the farming activities.
This issue of insecurity affected many farmers because there are some areas, most of the farmers, they didn't even go to the farm.
We are coming with a stiffer law that will ensure that anybody found guilty in terms of this banditry and criminality will be given a life sentence or a death sentence, because that is the only way we can move this country forward.
The ongoing military operations have rekindled the hope of farmers as they commence activities for the 2020 farming season. This therefore necessitated the distribution of farming inputs to maize farmers in the FCT.
So there is need for us to create synergy for the two sides to meet, where we have the producer and the off-taker. I know the CBN is trying to do that, but in a larger perspective, the ministry is playing that role.
The inputs were procured through the Anchor Brewers program with a view to assisting smallholder farmers boost agricultural production.
Nigerian states and federal debt stock data as at 31st March 2020 show that the country's total public debt portfolio stood at 28.63 trillion naira. According to a public debt report by the National Bureau of Statistics, 9.99 trillion naira or 34.89% of debt was external, while 18.64 trillion naira or 65.11% of debt was domestic. Similarly, states and FCT domestic debt was put at 4.11 trillion naira, with Lagos State accounting for 10.8% of total domestic debt stock, while Yobe State has the lowest debt stock with a contribution of 0.7%. Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has restated its preparedness to collaborate with the National Information Technology Development Agency (NITDA) to foster safe conduct of transactions and usage of personal data in the Nigerian capital market. Director General of SEC, Lamido Yuguda, stated this during a webinar on the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation and how it affects the capital market. Theme: Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, implications on the Nigerian capital market. Yuguda stated that the Commission is very serious on the issue of data protection in the capital market, assuring that going forward, the SEC would continue to create necessary awareness. The SEC boss expressed the hope that lessons gained from this session would impact the operations of participants meaningfully and lead the capital market to a full compliance with NDPR. Profits taking shook heavy caps in the week ended Friday the 10th of July 2020. Let's now join Bosede Abel for an outlook from the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
The NSE All-Share Index for week ended 10th July depreciated by 0.12% to close the week at 24,306.36, while market capitalization stood at 12.6 trillion naira. At a turnover of 901.5 million shares worth 13.4 billion naira in 18,676 deals were traded by investors on the floor of the exchange. All other indices finished lower with the exception of NSE CG, NSE Premium, NSE Banking, NSE Pension, NSE Afri Bank Value, NSE Afri Dividend, and NSE Meri Value indices, which appreciated. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 629.3 million shares valued at 5.1 billion naira, traded in 9,887 deals. The ICT industry followed with 59.5 million shares worth 5.1 billion naira in 684 deals. The third place was the consumer goods industry. The top three equities were the financial institution of Guaranty Trust Bank PLC, Fidelity Bank PLC, and Zenith Bank PLC. They accounted for 293.6 million shares worth 4 billion naira in 4,334 deals. Total units of 301,094 kobo of exchange traded products valued at 2.3 billion naira were traded in 14 deals, as well as 11,487 units of federal government bonds valued at 4.7 million naira were traded in 13 deals. In the price movement chart, 25 equities appreciated in price during the week, 33 equities depreciated in price, while 105 equities remained unchanged.
And on the global scene, China's stock markets at the weekend jumped 6% as U.S. stocks also gained despite unrelenting rise in COVID-19 cases. Bosede Abel again has an outlook.
Last Friday, U.S. President Donald Trump said the relationship between Washington and Beijing has been severely damaged by the coronavirus pandemic. However, stocks in Asia had a positive start for 13th July as investors shook off concerns over the rising number of coronavirus cases stateside. Shanghai Composite was up 1.77% to 3,443.29. Nikkei rose 2.22% to close at 22,784.74, as well as the Hang Seng Index, which rose 0.17% as of its final hour of trading. In the United States, stock futures also rose in early trading on Monday as investors looked past a record spike in coronavirus cases in Florida. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 185 points, pointing to a more than 369 points gain at Monday's open. The S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures also pointed to a positive start for the two indices. European stocks traded higher as well, despite backdrop of surging coronavirus cases in some parts of the world and as investors approach earnings season. For stocks in Africa, it was mostly mixed. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Namibia's overall index opened positive. Ghana's GSA Composite Index was marginally positive, while Tunisia's Tunidex and Nairobi's All-Share were negative.
Thank you, Bosede. The Nigerian Stock Exchange was off to a weak start this Monday as investors positioned for revised budget signed Friday, as well as the medium-term expenditure framework to permeate. At the close of trade this afternoon, the All-Share Index dropped 24,200.6 basis points, with market capitalization also declining to 12.62 trillion naira. 231 million shares valued at 2.154 billion naira were traded in 3,950 deals. The banking stocks led by Sterling Bank, FCMB and GT led the charts. Now, analysts are predicting the Naira to fall steeper this week. Let's see prevailing figures outside the official window. OPEC and allies are set to ease output cuts as they anticipate demand recovery, with Saudi Arabia proposing relaxing the group's production caps by 2 million barrels a day. The group is expected to meet Wednesday via web conference to debate current and further production. And on that note, let's see other commodities on the global scene. this is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag BizX. Remember to always wash your hands with soap or use a sanitizer as the world battles COVID-19. Be safe out there. Business Express returns Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. on the network service of the NTA. I am Amina Nujaim, and thank you for watching.